Hello lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, welcome back to another video. Today I have with me Jagriff, who is the developer for Gentoo Rescue, if you'd like to say hello.
Hello, yeah. So I'm Jagriff, yeah, developing for Gentoo Rescue, a puzzle, Metroidvania type game. Main inspirations are Baba Is You, so anything like that, it's kind of in that wheelhouse.
Yep. So I've done a video on it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I am a sucker for puzzle video games in general, even though I am dumb as a doorknob. I just wanted to ask, outside of Baba Is You, what really inspired you to get firstly into game creation and, you know, also go down that puzzle route if there were any other inspirations that you wanted to share?
Yeah, sure. I've been a gamer all my life. I've always been interested in game development, so it was just like always there to the side. And then just several life events kind of happened all at the same time, and I was just like, I should focus on this. This seems like a good path to go forward. It's something I want to do, and have a project and actually create something. So that's kind of how I got started in game development. And along with that was this idea of one of my favorite games I played in college a lot, board game, was Ricochet Robots, which is it's kind of like Gentoo Rescue. You have several robots that move, and they move by sliding, and they have to help each other reach certain goals. And then around the same time, I had also played Baba Is You, which my favorite puzzle game by far. And I just had the idea of, how could I combine these two things and kind of create my own twist on things. And so that's kind of what led me down the puzzle path. Also, I think it's or at least at the time, I thought it would be a short, easy project, right? It's a food puzzle game,
Yeah.
2D grid-based puzzle game. How hard can that
How many
be?
levels did you come up with again?
Oh, well, I mean, total in development probably over 1,000, but actually, like that are in the game is like 300 because it was
Yeah.
such an iterative process. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember seeing on Blue Sky, you were like, yeah, I just culled like 50 different levels. I'm like, yeah, they don't need to be there. It's like, Jesus, man. I wouldn't have the brain power to sit there and make that many puzzles on a good day. So what was sort of your thought process behind making the puzzles? Did you have like a sort of end goal work backwards, or did you sort of start like at the first step and then sort of just make it up as it went?
Well, this is something I kind of learned throughout the developments. The game's been in development for a little over 2 years now. At the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. I would just, I'd play around the mechanics. I'd just like throw spaghetti at the wall, and sometimes the puzzle would pop out. Not necessarily a good puzzle, but something that you could solve. Maybe it didn't have a ton of direction to it. But over time, I sort of learned, a better process to creating better puzzles. And so essentially, it always starts with an idea. You have some mechanical trick, some emergent mechanic or some new mechanic, something you want to teach the player. Every puzzle should basically be a tutorial about something cool you want to show off about the game.
Yeah.
And then once you have that basic idea, then you're gonna have to. It's still a lot of work to actually create that idea into a puzzle. You want to start the player off. You want to give them some first off, you want the puzzle to be sort of easy to understand, so that they understand what their goals are. They and they should also have some kind of hook to the puzzle where, like, once the player gets dropped in, they have an initial idea, and that should pretty much always be not the correct solution, but it's something that they can start interacting with the puzzle, and pretty quickly find the problem of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And so that way, within like 5 or 10 seconds, the player sees the puzzle, they understand how it works, and then they make a first couple of moves and say, "Oh, doesn't quite work like that. I have a better understanding. I know it doesn't work," and now they're interacting with the puzzle. And then, yeah, from there, you basically just try to build up deductions that you expect the player to make, so that they can walk through the puzzle using, their knowledge of the game, maybe a little bit of experimentation, and then just like pure logic from there. I don't really like trial and error based puzzles.
Yeah. Because I'll say, like, one of my favorite puzzles, like the one that got me probably most invested, I can't remember the exact level off the top of my head, because it's been, a few weeks since I've played the demo, and since the game, at this point when this is released, has come out, so go pick it up, was the one where it's got all the breakable walls, and you sort of start in, like, the corner, and you gotta, like, figure out which walls to break in what order in order to get out. That was probably one of my favorite ones, because I just felt like, as I did it the first time, I'm like, okay, so clearly going this direction, I see it's not going to work. So I know for a fact my first move has to be this. And then you sort of go, okay, well, if I do this, like, yeah, you could trial and error like any puzzle. But I found, at least for me, I was looking 2, 3 steps ahead, which made me a lot more engaged in the puzzle, more so than just sort of, as you said, like in the early days, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Which I really enjoyed that aspect of the game. But the other aspect that I find very interesting is just this sort of levels within levels. What sort of inspired you to go down that route?
Well, it's basically a problem. Pretty much every design decision I made was basically a result of a problem in the design process, and I just thought of solutions. And so for that one, I was creating UI. I mean, I had a handful of levels, and I want to create UI for a level select. And I'm like, it'd really be better if level select was like in the game. And based on the way the movement system works and the way the mechanics work with different items that the animals can pick up, it seemed pretty natural to do this sort of nested levels and levels. Some inspiration from Patrick's Parabox there as well, of course. A bit from Baba Is You, actually. Some of the meta mechanics from Baba Is You kind of use the same idea. Um, but yeah, I just thought it was very natural with the way the mechanics are already working, and it turned out to be I think a very good decision, a good direction to go down, because it makes for a very systemic game where when you're in a world, it's really just the same as being in a puzzle.
Yeah.
There's no difference between the two. There just happens to be other puzzles you can go to.
Yeah, like the mechanics all sort of meld together, which I really appreciate. Because like I've played just quickly, I do apologize. My dad's dog is outside my window barking. She's deaf as a doorknob, so she thinks she hears something and she'll start barking. You can't get her to stop because you can stand next to her and yell her name. She will not hear you. So I do apologize if people hear that in my audio. I should be able to mute it when you're speaking, but just as a quick apology, because once she starts, she does not stop for a good 20 minutes, and then she'll go, oh, nothing's there, and then go take a nap because she's getting a bit old. But anyway, getting back to what I was trying to get to, I really appreciate that. Like, it's a very cohesive experience. Like, everything does really meld together with that. As you said, right? Like, it's that level within levels. Sort of, it's a solution in terms of you're learning the game while playing it and just doing anything, which I do really like in a puzzle game, because I've played so many that just unfortunately do just sort of throw you in, and it doesn't really explain anything, and you have to sort of screw around and figure out what the game's logic is. Whereas with Gen 2, I found that the logic is sort of shown to you as you progress, so you understand, and get what to expect going forward. So my next real question is, what led you down like the penguin route? If you got an answer for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, it didn't start out as penguins. This penguins came out. So again, I mentioned the game was in development for like 2.5 years. Penguins didn't show up until about a year ago, almost to the day. Before that, it was just a very abstract game. You were controlling different shapes, like a cylinder and a pyramid and so forth. Um, and yeah, I mean, I felt like the game was lacking some theming there, and it's a sliding game, so naturally, penguins were the answer to that. And then, of course, I also added walruses, and there's some fish that show up, and some mechanics that sort of lean on that aesthetic a little bit more.
Mm.
Although, I mean, that's of course not the central theme of the game. Like in the very second world, even in the demo, you get introduced to a beach sand world, and while the penguins are still sliding on the sand,
Yeah,
there's still cracked ice that is now sand colored. So like some of the theming is kind of kind of silly. The game's overall, I've tried to add a lot of silly things because I enjoy like seeing the penguins and the walruses hit each other and they bonk and make a silly noise, and the way they fly off of the puzzle sometimes. So I've kind of leaned into that sort of absurdity.
yeah. No, I've definitely I find it very charming, especially like the penguins, just their general design, like because they're not like super high res or anything like that, but they've got like this kind of almost ugly adorableness to them, if that sort of makes sense. Like that, like I don't know if anyone's played like just old PS1 era titles or like N64 games, especially the N64 penguins. They sort of remind me of them from Super Mario 64. Like not as detailed, obviously, because you're going for your unique style. You're not trying to rip them off by any means, but they've got that sort of pudgy, cute look to them that I appreciate. as someone who is pudgy. But just to continue on with the story about the development. So you said you've been working on it for about 2 years. So would you say the game has sort of reached a point where, like, at least now that it has come out, where you're like, yes, this is really good, even though there might be some other things you want to add? Or is it a situation where it's like, I kind of wish I could have like another 6 months to add and polish?
I mean, there's always things that I could improve. A lot of the things that I can improve are things that aren't in my domain. So my background is
Yeah.
in programming. So as far as like the game logic and things like that, the movement logic and just the way the game functions, all the programming tasks, I feel like are basically done. Like there's nothing, I mean, they're totally done. There's nothing else really to add there. And as far as the puzzle design, there's already 300 puzzles. This is a
Yeah.
very long, fairly difficult game. Which outside of Baba Is You, I can't really think of any puzzle games that are have so many puzzles and are also so hard. Maybe Maxwell's Puzzling Demon came out last year. Is another one worth mentioning. So yeah, definitely, I wouldn't want to add any content or any features to this game. But I mean, of course, there's polish like with the music. I'm still there's still maybe a couple tracks in the end game that I'm going to try to spit out in the next couple of days after release. Which I mean, what I have there is a placeholder. It's fine, but I'm a little picky about music, so that's something I'm wanting to do. And then the visuals. You mentioned the penguin models and the walrus models. That's just something that I created, and that's like that wasn't really an artistic direction. It's just that I'm new to Blender, and this is what I made.
Yeah.
So if I maybe had 6 months, I would polish some of that up. But I don't know if it's really valuable for me. The game is much more about the puzzles and the puzzle design.
Yeah, the visuals
And
are
so
more an afterthought.
yeah, like I wanted to make clean visuals that were pleasing, nothing that was too annoying. I didn't want the visuals to stand in the way of the puzzles at all. And I think I've sort of achieved that. So even if I had the 6 months, I'm not sure that I would do those things.
Yeah, completely fair. During development, were there any things that in particular you wanted to add that you just weren't able to, or maybe something where you've gone to add it and then gone, it's kind of distracting from like the core focus of the game?
Nothing major. There's obviously a lot of small things. There was one item that comes to mind that it was like I called it an echo item. This was before items were represented by like real world objects. Like there was no hammer or spring at this time.
Yeah.
So maybe I would have represented this by like a mirror or something. And basically what it did is when another animal hit an animal holding this item, it would sort of reflect all of the actions that it did to it. And I thought it was a very interesting item, but it was way too complicated to tutorialize, and the game was already had way too many mechanics as it was. So that was one that got cut. There's a handful of other small decisions like that. There was nothing. I mean, there are of course things that I would like to add that I just didn't have time for, but then also didn't consider worth it just because the game is so long already. So those ideas, if I ever intend on replacing Gentoo TWO with Gentoo TWO,
Yeah.
to do some sort of sequel, then those still might show up.
Yeah, well, that leads into my next question, which I do love the idea of that as a title for the sequel. I think that's brilliant. Well, if you were to do one. But do you have any plans for another Gen 2 game? Or would you be looking to program maybe something new, like maybe like an adventure game or something like that, just as an example? Or would you like to kind of stick in the puzzle realm?
Yes and no. I really enjoy making puzzle games. I like puzzle games, and I think that especially after this like 2 years of just deep diving into puzzle design, I think I can do a pretty good job at puzzle games. So of course that's something I'm considering. As far as a sequel, I mean, we'll see how the game does. I mean, obviously, if the game blows up, then I would love to just work on a sequel right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, if the game doesn't do so well, maybe I'll look at other projects. Outside of puzzle, the issue is that my other type of games that I like to play are like competitive multiplayer games, competitive one versus one games like RTS or FPS.
Yep.
And that's kind of hard to do as a solo developer because the game's pretty much dead as soon as you release it.
Yeah. especially RTS, has been making a comeback. It is my favorite genre of all the genres. I'm a big StarCraft boy, but no, I can definitely respect that.
What Terran race do you play?
I
Or sorry, what StarCraft race?
technically I play all three, but I am Australian, so by default I play Zerg. But I do like to play a lot of Terran these days, just because I find them a lot more fun mechanically. Just because I played Zerg for so bloody long. When I played, like, I don't ladder these days because ladder anxiety and all that is just a bitch. But these days, I sort of just play the campaign over and over again, or play like just versus bots and stuff like that, or play with just friends. But like, yeah, I'll probably, if I'm playing against a friend, I'm taking it serious. I play Zerg, even though I don't play it as often. I still have that just hard coded into my memory from playing so many thousands of matches. If I'm playing sort of seriously, I'll play Terran. And if I'm playing with the like object to lose, I will probably play Protoss because I just don't understand them. And I'm one of those people who's like, Protoss OP, fuck them, they can go die because I don't understand their mechanics. Even though I do these days, but I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I used to be like that. I kind of hate myself for that. A bit cringe complaining about balance. But yeah, I've definitely grown as a person, I'd like to think.
I'm one of those Terrans that off races as Protoss only the cannon rush. Like that's my entire Protoss strategy. Is like, okay, if I'm gonna play Protoss, I'm cannon rushing.
So you're still not as dirty as a full-blown Protoss player. That's okay. That's all right. Anyone who plays Protoss out there, fuck you. Nah, all the love. I'm actually working on my big StarCraft video, which is getting massively blown out. So I'm trying to wheel the project in. So most of my videos, for those who don't know, are usually about 8 to 10 minutes, maybe sometimes 13, 14 outside of the interviews. But my StarCraft video is currently on track to be nearly 2 hours long at the current rate at this point. So I'm like, I really need to bring it in because I'm covering every single game, the esports scene, everything else with it. But just to kind of get into another aspect that I think a lot of solo devs could definitely, benefit from. You've been very active on social media, as I said. I see you post on Blue Sky very, very often. You're very transparent about what's going on with the game, what you're working on, what you're adding, thoughts on things you wouldn't mind taking, or like things you might have cut out, or, trying to get feedback in general. How hard was it to go into doing that? Putting your game out there in the first place, let alone trying to interact and build a community. And how do you find that, that social media has helped sort of, kind of give your project a bit more visibility in a day and age where, AAA is sort of, dominating because of the marketing budgets being so crazy?
Yeah, I mean it's been tough. I have never been a social media person. Like I had Facebook and deleted it in like 2010, and I had gotten Twitter only recently because of like esports tournaments, and you had to sign up with their or like follow their Twitter in order to sign up for their tournament. And so that's basically like the only social media experience I had before Gentoo Rescue. And then so along with the game coming out, I wanted to try to get it out there as much as I could and connect with other game devs, especially other puzzle game devs or people that play puzzle games. And so Blue Sky has been tremendously helpful. I mentioned Twitter already. Twitter was no help to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
but Blue Sky has been great for connecting with not just other game devs, not just players, not just content creators, just everyone. And it's just it's been really really nice. As far as growth of the game, it's kind of hard for me to track, but it's definitely had a positive impact. I mean, I don't think anything's been taken away by these posts. And then as far as how hard it was to like put my game out there, like that's never really a concern for me. I'm always open for feedback. I feel like I'm very good at, or I'm very willing to listen to feedback even if I disagree with it.
Yeah.
So I mean I can manage that as needed. So the more feedback, the better in my mind. And especially with things that I'm not so good at, like particularly visuals. That's something that I don't really have an eye for. I mentioned, I play a lot of competitive games. I play everything on low settings. Anything that takes away any frames is
it's not worth
is
having.
no good for me.
Yeah.
Right. So For me, it's been hard to fine tune the visuals. They've actually gone through a lot of iterations, and about a big part of that has actually been from social media. Earlier this year, around January, Joseph Mansfield, he runs a YouTube channel. Joe Plays Puzzle Games,
Mm.
and he plays a ton of puzzle games, and he also uh, manages the Thinky Games website, basically a big source of big database of puzzle games, and they connect players with their game.
Mm.
And yeah, he reached out in January. Was like, hey, this game is not looking so good. You can very easily improve the visuals. Just do this, and this. And yeah, after the a few conversations with him, very short conversations on Discord, I was able to tremendously improve the visuals.
Mm.
So that alone, that's all pretty much thanks to social media.
So I remember, just to kind of touch on something you said there, where you mentioned you're pretty good at dealing with feedback. I remember you got a comment where someone, I think it was during the Steam Next Fest, where someone was like, "This is no better than a Flash game." How do you deal with like comments where you get people who aren't really being constructive with criticism other than just bitching for the sake of bitching?
Yeah, I mean it's annoying. I mean because that individual had played the demo for a total of like 4 minutes,
Yeah.
and this is an issue I'm aware of. So the issue with the big design issue I think of the game overall is that it starts off very slow and very bland. Like I have to introduce this basic world that just has basic sliding movement, no items, none of any fancy cool mechanics. Nothing really looks super unique in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I've tried to design around this, but I think it's just necessary to have to really tutorialize how the game works.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's unfortunate to see people that just play the first 3 or 4 levels, and that's it. they quit. But yeah, as far as managing that, I used to teach in college. I taught probably 4 or 5 different calculus classes.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm used to hearing feedback that doesn't make too much sense. That's fine.
Speaking of like sort of getting into that, like tutorializing, the game and how you sort of have that slow start. A friend of mine, Poti, who is creating the game Craft A, I'm a big fan of it. Very much enjoy that game a lot. It's actually in my, I think, top 5 games of the year so far that I've played. But he's in a very similar position where it's like the tutorial. It's like you can only do so much when you have a lot going on in order to have a tutorial that's going to teach and teach well versus just rushing through to get into the meat of the game. And I think there's a problem, especially these days. Let's be real, most people have shorter attention spans. They're not necessarily always willing to sit down for these longer periods of time where maybe, yeah, you just got to piss fart around for an hour to figure out how everything works before, you're golden. Now, that's not necessarily the case with Gentoo Rescue by any means, but do you find that, with your game, that because of the shorter attention spans, that's what led to probably my personal favorite feature, honestly, is that really fast movement speed of the penguin sliding?
No, the fast movement speed, that's just my preference. Like I'm a
Good
competitive
man.
gamer, so like
Good man.
I want it as fast as possible. I actually have a button in the game to slow the movement speed. Well, there's a setting to fine tune the movement speed, like the base movement speed.
Mm.
But then I also have a button specifically to slow movement speed because in the early days when the animations weren't so good, it was kind of hard to see what was happening.
Yeah.
And so that slow button there was just there to see the animations.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fast movement speed, it just feels good. Like it's important for the game to feel good to play, even if you're not necessarily like if you're failing to solve a puzzle, at least you can move the animals around and it kind of feels good. And
Yeah.
so that's the main reason behind the fast movement speed. I actually didn't realize it was fast until like I had already slowed the movement speed down by like it was probably like 30% of what it used to be by the time the next demo rolled around.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching streams of people playing it, and they're like, "Oh, you can move fast." I'm like, "What? This is so much slower than it used to be."
That's like what do I play? I played like when I went back and played original Doom and all that. And then I think it was when Black Ops 2 came out. I played it at a friend's place because I'm obsessed with original Doom back then. And playing that and then playing like the modern military shooter that dominated the 2010 era. And I remember just being like, this is awful And they're like, why? It's so good. I'm like, oh, no, don't get me wrong. The mechanics are great, but the movement speed, I can't stand this. It is too slow. What was the other game? From Game Freak, Little Town Hero. I went to play that to do a video on it. And it is to this day the only game I refunded. And it was solely because your character's movement speed is so friggin' slow. I was going to cry. And I am a very patient man. I leveled up to like level 70, I think it was, in Kingdom Hearts on the first island. Somewhere around there. Which was like 120 hours or something I spent doing that. Like, I'm willing to do that, but like if my movement speed just is slow, I can't stand it, and it's not for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that as well. I want to add one thing. My FPS background is in Diabolical, which is basically a Quake Live clone game. So yeah, I can't stand any sort of mainstream FPS solely because of movement speed.
Yeah, I can't do it. It's beyond me. Like if I can't move at 100 miles an hour, I'm like, this ain't for me. Even though like I'm not good at them, I'm awful. Can't hit a shot to save my life. But like I'm like, if I can move, at least I don't get hit as much, and that makes me feel a bit better. So
Yeah.
with the game having, by the time this is out, having launched, what would you say is the kind of the best feeling about it, and what would you say is kind of the worst feeling about
Best feeling is definitely the reception I've gotten so far. It was kind of disappointing process, because I just this is my first game, and so I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I thought people would be a lot more interested in the game,
it?
and that's something that I think every solo developer learns at some point, that no one cares about your game.
Yeah.
And so that was the case for me, of course. But then once Next Fest rolled around, got a handful of eyes on it, especially in the puzzle community, and seeing people that I had never talked to just talk about the game on Reddit or on Discord as a game they're looking forward to, and things like just seeing things like that. Like I couldn't be more proud of seeing that reception. And yeah, hopefully that goes through tomorrow from when this interview is taking place, or I guess what is that, a day before it launches? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But post launch. And then as far as the thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go. Sorry, I get indigestion because I'm an old man, so every now and then I sort of go. So my apologies.
Gotcha. So then, yeah, as far as what I'm most disappointed about, this is another thing that like every solo developer goes through, I think, with their first game, is that I made the game I wanted to make. Like I had an idea. I thought this game would be fun, and I think I built a game that is very fun. I mean, for puzzle fans especially. But it's not necessarily a game that looks fun from the outside until you really understand the inner workings. It doesn't look very unique. There's a ton of sliding puzzle games. Like this is something that someone's going to see the trailer and be like, "Oh, another sliding puzzle game," right? And just immediately dismiss it. I think there's a lot of unique things in the game, and the execution is very well done. But sort of the basic idea of the game doesn't appear unique from the outside, and so that's probably my biggest regret with the game overall. And so that's something that I'm definitely going to keep in mind for future games, is to make sure that the idea that I come up with isn't just fun to play, but also sort of looks fun to play. And so that way I can get some maybe more eyeballs on it, some more attention.
Just another apology real quick as we get towards the end of our interview. My cat has decided to jump up, so if there's any smacking sounds on the microphone while I'm talking, that's my cat's tail because she wants attention. Because God forbid I ever go outside, she gets mad at me if I do. But as we're sort of coming to the end of this interview, I wanted to ask my absolute favorite question to ask. If you could play any game again for the first time, completely forgotten everything about it, and experience it that first time again, what game would you pick and why? And you are allowed some honorable mentions.
That's a tough one, actually, because forgetting everything. So before you said forgetting everything about it, I was of course going to list like StarCraft 2 and Diabolical, my two favorite competitive games, because I can come in with my knowledge and have a good time, right?
Yeah.
If I forget everything about it, it would probably be Terraria, actually. That game is just so gigantic. There's so much to discover. And yeah, experiencing that for the first time again would be great.
Yeah, Terraria feels like a game that unfortunately has sort of almost been forgotten about a bit in terms of like its mainstay popularity. Like it was huge when it was like the thing. But it like sort of released unfortunately at the time when Minecraft had just sort of really started to take off as well. So, like, being a similar sort of concept in terms of, you know, a open world build, gather, survival game, it did unfortunately, I think, get buried a little bit for how good a game it actually is. I think it deserves a lot more love. Did you ever play Starbound?
Yep, I played. I think it was the beta. I'm not sure. It was like early access
Yeah.
Starbound. I played. I was really into it for like 3 days, and then I did everything, and so I was done. I mean, I'm sure the game has changed a lot since I last played it,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the state of what it was when I played it.
Yeah, because every time I hear Terraria, like that and Starbound are the first two games that come to mind. Because for those who don't know, they're, you know, Starbound's like a sci-fi version of it, and I am a sucker for sci-fi. If you couldn't tell by my love of StarCraft.
Another game, Dig or Die, I played a few years ago. It's actually it's Terraria inspired.
Yeah.
It's more of a tower defense game, or at least that's. I mean, there's similar survival elements to it.
Yeah.
And of course crafting and all that stuff. But yeah, there's a bit of a bigger tower defense focus.
Yeah.
Quite a good game as well.
I'll definitely have to put that on my list to check out. So, with that, we're going to come to an end for this interview. So, Jagriff, where can everyone find you?
Yep. So you can find me on Blue Sky at Jagriff, and then just Jagriff. So Jagriff. And then you can find Gentoo Rescue on Steam, and from there you can find the Discord server if you want to come hang out and say hi. There is also, I have a Gentoo Rescue Twitter account, which is just called Gentoo Rescue, and despite posting everything that I post on Blue Sky, I have like 5% of the followers and no engagement whatsoever. So
yeah, Twitter is a bit of a hole, to say the least, which is why I don't really use it. Like, I have it as a platform, but you know, Blue Sky has been so much better for being able to connect with indie devs. Like, you know, I've obviously got to meet yourself and many other incredible solo devs who are, you know, working their ass off on some amazing projects. But, you know, if you were just stuck with Twitter, if you don't get traction, you can't really get anywhere on Twitter, which sort of sucks. Whereas with Blue Sky, I feel like everyone's sort of got more of an equal voice, but maybe the highs aren't as high. If that makes sense.
Yep, I can see that.
All right, so everybody, thank you so much for watching. Go check out Gentoo Rescue. If anyone's been watching the actual video instead of just listening to the audio, you will have seen my video basically playing on loop repeat, because we are doing this technically before the game comes out, and I have so many videos I need to make because I've been just awful at making videos of late, so trying to get my ass back in gear and get that all going. But I really appreciate it, and we'll have links to everything for Jagriff Gentoo Rescue related down below, so do go check it out, do go pick the game up. If you are a fan of puzzle games, I highly recommend it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. Bye.